Welcome to MMA on the Rocks. My name is Bill Welker. You are listening to Picks and Pours, episode 57, as I'm trying to silence my phone here. Of course, I don't get any notifications until the show goes live, and then all of a sudden the phone starts buzzing away. All right, got that taken care of. Today is Thursday, April 3rd. Hope everybody had a very pleasant April Fool's Day. Hope you didn't get tricked too bad. I scrolled through social media and, there were the usual pranks, and I wasn't even thinking about April Fool's Day. I would just see them and I think this is stupid. So I don't think I got fooled by anything. Matt the Mechanic could not make it this week. He's having some technical difficulties with his computer. I guess the cooling pump or something blew on it. So he did send me his picks, and I'll get to those in a little bit. I've been telling Matt for years to switch to Apple and get himself a Mac. I've been using this MacBook Pro. I would have been using the same MacBook since the beginning of the podcast, except it suffered, the original one suffered some water damage. Matt the Mechanic's here in the chat. Apparently he wants to fucking Apple. Yeah, so MacBook Pro, I swear by this thing. Never had a virus, never had an issue. It doesn't need antivirus software. Never had it like crash on me or anything like that. The only issues I've ever had with the podcast have been with Wi-Fi. That's been an occasional issue throughout the years. Nothing you can do about that. But in any case, Matt did relay his picks. I'll get to those in a little bit. I want to talk about UFC Mexico City real quick. What did you guys think about this? Pretty one-sided victory for Brandon Moreno in the main event. You got to be happy for the guy. He seems like such a nice guy. And, he gets to win in front of his home country. But at the end of it, I was like, okay. Like, it was nothing about it made me want to see Brandon Moreno and Alexandre Pantoja part 4. I'm just not. I don't think I'm ever going to be interested in that, to be honest. And it's not that I don't want to see Moreno win the title back. I don't want to see that fight again. We saw him fight Davison Figueiredo like fucking 16 times. We don't need to see these same matchups over and over again. And I think it just really speaks to the depth of the UFC flyweight division. I mean, Usyk was really good. I think he just got thrown to the wolves a little too soon. He had some impressive performances, an opportunity came up, and he just wasn't quite ready yet. At this point, what do? You got a champion who's basically too dominant for his own good, because he's not a marketable fighter now. He's got wins over Asakura, Usyk, Brandon Royval, who's at the top, Brandon Moreno, Perez, Brandon Royval again. It's like, what do we do with this guy? Do we have him move up? Everybody seems to be moving up these days to the east side. Manel Cape is kind of floating around that top 5 right now. This is how bad it is that Kai Asakura, who just fought for the title, just fought Pantoja for the title, is ranked 15th. You know, I'm okay if that was the last flyweight main event, maybe ever. I'd be totally fine with that. I mean, it's just there's not a whole lot. There's not a whole lot going on with that division. I mean, it was a good win for Moreno, but am I alone on this? Does anybody care to see Moreno Pantoja 4? I mean, I'm all ears if you want to talk me into it, but you know, after watching that 5-round main event that was just a boxing match, basically. You know, if I wanted to see boxing, I would just watch boxing. I'm not trying to be bitter or anything, but there was just nothing about it that made me want to see that 4-time rematch. Manuel Torrez looked really good, knocking out Drew Dober in the first round. That's a big feather in his cap. You know, he's a tough kid. Hits hard. And he got to do that in front of his home country. And he also got to bounce back from that loss against Ignacio Bahamondes back in September. So it's good to see him recover from a loss in that way, taking out a guy in Drew Dober who's got a hell of a chin on him. You know, our buddy Matt the Steamroller Favola, I think, was the first person to ever knock Drew Dober out. And he's a veteran at this point. So, you know, he's got a hell of a chin on him. Raul Rosas Jr., pretty dominant against Vince Morales, except got caught in that really tight, what was it, guillotine in the third round. That was looking pretty deep for a while there. Tight squeeze on Morales, but Rosas Jr. able to pull it through. He's so young, man. How old is it? This kid is just 20 years old. That's insane. And he's already got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fights in the UFC. 7 if you count the Contender Series. I was reading some statistic the other day. He's like, he still has like 3 years and some change to break John Jones's record as the youngest UFC champion. That's going to be a tough record to break, especially in this division. You know, once you get into the top 10, you're facing some heat in this bantamweight division. So I'm curious to see how quick they're going to push him up there. You know, you still have Jose Aldo ranked just outside the top 10 in this division. You know, Chito Vera, Rob Font. Those will all be tough fights for him. Figueiredo, Corey Sandhagen, Nurmagomedov. There's some killers at the top of this division. But, you know, the kid looked good. You got to give it to him. I mean, his fighting, not his face. Let's see. Anything else I wanted to point out about this card? I don't think so. Jamal Emmers, first round knockout. He looked really good against Gabriel Miranda. I think we can move on to this upcoming fight card. I think it's UFC Vegas 105. So we're back at the Apex. I'm going to pull the rankings back up here. All right. So the headliner of this one, Josh Emmett and Lerone Murphy. So Lerone Murphy, undefeated, going into this main event here. This is his first main event. Tough dude, man. He does have one draw on his record, and it was a split draw back in 2019. But other than that, he's he's done really well. Hasn't really finished anyone who's top level competition. So he had the decision win over Dan Ige back in October in his last fight, decision over Edson Barbosa, and decision over Josh Coulibaugh. And the competition kind of falls off after that. The last person he finished was Makwan Amirkhani back in 2021. And, you know, that's a good win. Amirkhani was a guy that I always thought was really going to rise to the top when he first came out. So well-rounded, really solid fighter. So let's see. Matt is my odds guy. I never look at the odds. He's always got them. So he sent them to me. Josh Emmett is a plus 260 underdog. Josh Emmett turned 40 years old last month. That's not a good sign for someone at this weight. If he was a heavyweight and he just turned 40, I'd be like, yeah, he could still go. He could still have another 2-3 title runs. You know, you can start your MMA career at 40 years old if you're a heavyweight in Bellator. Like, just off the couch, start training MMA today, 40 years old. I know Bellator is not a thing anymore, but I'm not letting that joke go, guys. I've been riding with it for 8 years. It's not going anywhere. All right, so plus 260 underdog. Josh Emmett, a lot of momentum. He's coming off of that fight where he just flatlined Bryce Mitchell. And a lot of people have been sharing that one lately because of, Bryce Mitchell being an absolute moron on the internet. A lot of people felt a need to share the clip of him getting annihilated by Josh Emmett. But he's been on the shelf since then, and that was December of 2023. So that was over a year ago. We're looking at what, 15 months ago since Josh Emmett has fought. So hopefully he's typically done this throughout his career. He's had a lot of injuries, broken hands, hand surgeries. I think he had a knee problem at one point. He has tended to not fight that frequently. You know, at his peak, he was fighting 3 times a year, sometimes less. Looking over his resume here. You know, he went the distance with the champ, Ilia Topuria, in June 2023. And before that, he got submitted by Yair Rodriguez. So make no mistake, Josh Emmett might have the most devastating punching power in the history of the featherweight division. Nobody at that weight really puts people out the way Josh Emmett has. So he's got that in his back pocket. And with that being said, Josh Emmett is part of a 3-fighter parlay that Matt the Mechanic has put together here. So he's riding with Josh Emmett. The next leg of this parlay comes in the co-main event. Pat Sabatini versus Joanderson Brito. Pat Sabatini plus 190 underdog. Brito coming off a loss to William Gomez back in September, but it was a split decision loss. His only losses in the UFC have been decisions. So he has not been finished in the UFC. He has been finished outside of the UFC, but we're talking 10 years ago since he's been finished. December 2015 was the last time he had a TKO loss. Pat Sabatini, tough dude. You know, he's coming off of a first round submission win over Jonathan Pierce. Before that, he was KO'd by Diego Lopez. We all know how good that guy is now. Had a submission win over Lucas Almeida, and TKO lost to Damon Jackson. So he's been really hot and cold, 2-2 in his last 4. I would have actually thought that he would be a bigger underdog here, and it would be a bigger payout for Matt on this one. But Matt is taking Pat Sabatini at plus 190. And I'll jump around the card a little bit to give you the third leg of this parlay. We're going to go to the prelims, and it's Davey Grant against Daniel Santos. So Daniel Santos, nickname Willie Cat. I don't know what that's about. 2-fight win streak. Won a decision back in June of 2023 over Johnny Munoz. So he's coming up on 2 years since he's fought. We're in April now, May, June. Yeah, 2 months from now, it would be 2 years since this guy has fought. So, but Davey Grant still an underdog to a guy who's been on the shelf for 2 years. Davey Grant, 39 years old too. God damn. So Davey Grant coming off a win over Ramon Tavares. Another guy that's just, is so tough, right? This guy is dog tough, but he's just never been consistent throughout his career. That was always his thing. At 39 years old, man, that's rough. That's a rough age. I know because I've surpassed it. That's how I know. All right, so that's the 3-fight parlay that Matt the Mechanic has given you guys this week. So it's Josh Emmett, who's a plus 260, Pat Sabatini plus 190, and Davey Grant plus 184. $5 on that parlay pays out $194. Might be worth a little sprinkle. I think this is the first time in a while that Matt has picked all underdogs and put them in a parlay. So interesting play here. I think he's trying to really up the winnings on the year. I'm not sure where we're standing with that. I'll have to have him give an update on that. So Matt, if you're listening, come with the numbers next week. Mark Fellows says he's backing Josh Emmett. Any man with his own beer label is a winner in my book. And he asked if I tried it, the One Punch IPA. I have not tried Josh Emmett's beer. I would like to. So if anybody from that beer company wants to send some my way, I don't know who puts it out, but I would receive it with open arms. I do like a good IPA. Summertime's coming up. It's beer drinking weather, folks. Although tonight I'm sipping some Penelope barrel strength bourbon. I enjoy a lot of things that Penelope has put out. This barrel strength bourbon is 116 proof. The mash bill is corn, rye, wheat, and malted barley. I like stuff that has wheat in the mash bill. It gives it that kind of sweetness that I really enjoy in a bourbon. I haven't cracked this one open in a while, and it was calling my name from the shelf. So I've been taking little sips of this while I've been talking to you guys, trying to keep the vocal cords lubricated here. Seems to be working. Cheers. All right. So that's the 3-fight parlay. If you want to rock with Matt the Mechanic, or if you want to bet against him, either way, let me know. Let me know in the comments what you guys are doing. Let me know if you're putting any money on this parlay he's got going on. I'm into this card. There's some interesting matchups on here. Brad Tavares and Gerald Meerschaert, 2 veterans, both with 30-plus fights. Gerald Meerschaert, my goodness, 37-18. That's It's a lot of fights, man. I can't even do that math in my head. If anybody wants to do that for me. Brad Tavares, 20-10. I could do that. That's 30. You guys aren't going to fool me with that one. So, yeah, both of these guys been around for a long time. Obviously, we know Tavares is going to have a little bit of an advantage on the feet. Meerschaert's going to have an advantage on the ground. He's up there for, most submissions in UFC history, isn't he? 29 wins by submission. I know those aren't all in the UFC, but did get submitted in his last fight, though, against Rainier de Ritter. Is he one of the Rainier de Ritter? I gotta see his face here. Hold on, guys. Pull this up real quick. It's not loading. All right. Buday Osbourne is going to get in there with the 10-0 Luis Gurule. That's an interesting fight. 10-0 is Gurule. And then the fight right before that, Torrez Finney, also 10-0, taking on Robert Valentin. Diana Belbita on this card. She's got a lot of male fans. I think not for her fighting, but other things. And there was another fight that interested me on here. What is it? Vanessa Demopoulos. Man, this girl really had an opportunity to become a star, I thought, when she jumped in Joe Rogan's arms and then did it again to Bisping. She really had a chance to take off, but was so hot and cold, lost on the Contender Series back in 2020. And then, put together a 1-1 record in the LFA, and then got the call to come back to the UFC, lost her debut, and, they kept giving her chances. And then she had strung together 3 in a row. She's coming off a submission loss to Jacqueline Amarim, though. So she'll be the curtain jerker, UFC Vegas 105 against Talita Alankar, who's 5-1-1. Her nickname is Problem Child. 34 years old. That's an old child. Yeah, not too familiar with this young lady. It's time to change the nickname, though. I mean, 34 years old, you're not a problem child anymore. You can be a problem adult. That's about it. Let's see. What else we got here? I don't think there's anything else on this card really worth talking about, but I'm interested. I think the Joanderson, Brito, and Pat Sabatini fight is going to be good. I think the main event's going to be really good. It's just going to be, can Lerone Murphy avoid that big right hand of Josh Emmett for 25 minutes? Because Josh Emmett is never shy about his game plan, right? He's going to try and take his right hand and put it through the back of your skull. You're not really going to see him wrestle. You're not really going to see him throw kicks. You're not even really going to see him try and set up that right hand. He's just going to stalk you with it and try and put it right through your teeth hole. Yeah, your teeth hole. That's what he's going to do. Tough guy to finish, Josh Emmett. He's only been finished a couple of times by Jeremy Stevens and Yair Rodriguez, 2 elite level fighters. 1 knockout loss, 1 submission loss. This guy's got such crazy power. Does have 2 submission wins under his belt as well. I'm really interested to see how this one's going to go because, we've kind of seen Lerone Murphy tested against elite guys. Edson Barbosa and Danny Gay, I would say, elite level competition, right? So, yeah, how's he going to do in there with Emmett? And Lerone Murphy is a striker as well. He's not really going to go for any takedowns or submissions, I don't think. Anyway, Josh Emmett has great takedown defense in any case. So that should be a fun fight. Hopefully it's not going to be just a boxing match like the main event last week. I don't think there's too much going on in terms of news. The only thing that I've heard people kind of debating about is Ilia Topuria has vacated his featherweight title, and he has said that the UFC has promised him a title fight, and that's why he vacated the title. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. I can tell you I'm not interested in seeing that fight, and if I were Islam Makhachev, I would not be interested in taking that fight. Not because I think it's a hard fight for him. I don't. I don't see Topuria beating Islam. But for Islam, it's like there's nothing to gain by fighting Topuria because, he has 2 wins over Volkanovski, who is really a featherweight, So if Topuria moves up and Makhachev beats him, it's going to be like, well, he's just beating up another featherweight, And if he loses to him, it's like, well, now this guy, who's trying to establish a legacy, he lost to a smaller guy. So there goes, moving up to welterweight. I think he's even talked about moving up to middleweight. What do you guys think should be next? Do you think Topuria should go right into a title shot? Do you think Islam should move up to 170? I know 55 is a hard cut for him. He's a big dude. He's like 6 feet tall. It's probably a big cut for him. He probably gets up to close to 190, I would think. When he's not in a fight camp, I would think he's up around 190. Do you guys want to see Topuria and Makhachev? Like, who would you rather see Islam Makhachev fight? We almost got the rematch with Tsarukyan, who is ranked number 1. But Tsarukyan passed up that opportunity. I guess it was too short notice, or I don't remember. Justin Gaethje coming off a big win. We haven't seen those 2 fight yet, although we saw Gaethje fight Khabib, and that didn't go great for him. I don't know what else you really do. Max Holloway's sitting at number 4 right now. Honestly, I'd rather see the Tsarukyan Islam fight, and then let Topuria fight like a Dustin Poirier or something, or have Topuria fight Gaethje. That would be cool. And there was talk of will Islam move up, but I don't think he will, with as long as Bilal Muhammad is sitting as a champion, because those guys have the Muslim Brotherhood. Bilal has trained with them a bunch. I think they have the same management or something. There's some type of relationship there. So I don't think Islam would move up to challenge Bilal Muhammad, and I don't think Islam would be interested in fighting another featherweight, and I don't blame him for that. It really just, it really just doesn't make any sense for him to take that fight. So it's going to be interesting. What do you guys think will be next at lightweight? Do you think Topuria is going to walk right into a title shot with Islam Makhachev? Do you think the Tsarukyan fight will happen? You think they'll throw Justin Gaethje in there? And if Topuria doesn't fight Islam in his first fight at lightweight, who do you think he fights? I think Topuria and Dustin Poirier would be a really fun fight. I like that fight a lot. Or do we do Topuria and Max Holloway at lightweight this time? That would be interesting as well. John Dong in the chat wants to know, how do you think Belal versus Fluffy at middleweight goes? So I don't think it goes well for Fluffy, to be honest. He's got good submissions, but I think Belal's just got too much top pressure. And I don't know how Belal would look at middleweight. I think he beats a lot of guys at middleweight. The fight I really would like to see, because they have so much heat, is Sean Strickland and Belal Muhammad. Now he says, what about a prime Usman versus Fluffy? A prime Usman, in my opinion, is one of the best ever. What he was able to do, especially with his knee problems and everything, I think if he had a lot of that sorted out, I think he definitely could have made a run. I think he could have been a 2-division champion when he was in his prime. Let's see here. I think that about covers it for now. I didn't see any other news come up. When I open up SureDog, all it is like giant advertisements for a PFL, which apparently is going on now. It's a Thursday night at 10 p.m. I'm not watching that. I'm not staying up past doing this show. I'm going to bed after this, PFL. The fuck you guys doing over there? 10 o'clock on a Thursday? Anyway. Jackson versus Koreshkov, if anybody was wondering. Yeah, won't be watching that. If there's any good highlights, let me know. All right, so just to recap, Matt the Mechanic giving you his parlay. It's Josh Emmett, Pat Sabatini, and Davey Grant, all underdogs. $5 pays like $194. Okay. And we're going to keep it pretty short and sweet this week. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. And that's all I got. So until next time, cheers, everybody.